everyone. I am sure as you look at the camera, you see no strangers here because you've seen Erik many, many times before, either just he and I or he, I, and Mel. But today we are doing a different type of show. I follow Erik religiously because, as I've shared in previous shows with you, he has a master's in forensic psychology and he is an amazing researcher. So whenever he publishes something or he speaks about something, it's usually something with integrity because he has researched what he is sharing. As a result, I find myself looking for his news daily because, as you know, there's a lot coming at us. And I would say, depending on where you get it, it is propaganda. And in order to really get the news, you need someone who is really going to go to the source of the event and then relate what they find out there. Because if you disagree with me, I'll ask you to put it to a test. Go to Fox and watch them reporting a story. Go to CNN, go to MSNBC and watch the same story. And tell me if you don't see a slant. And I have become so discouraged by that I no longer watch any of those channels, although I should just to hear what they're saying to compare it to the truth. And lately, all I do is watch people like Erik, who I know has researched what they're sharing, because one, their credibility is important, and two, they want to make sure that people know what is really going on. I am very much on board with this, and this is the way I feel people need to get their information. As a result, I'm not popular, neither is Erik. And he has been unpopular probably way before me because he has written some books that have resulted from research. One is called From the Mouth, and the other one is called The Swiss Effect. And if you look carefully on this screen, you will see them depending on where you're looking. And in my case, it's on the right side. And these books, I want to say, have resulted in getting Erik on a hot list to where he was called and informed that if he went to England, he would be detained and probably arrested. And you know what? I just found out I'm on that list too. And I'm thinking, how the heck did a girl like me get there? And the only thing that I can summarize it to be is the fact that I too have been sharing things that are not supposed to be shared. And the one thing I have learned before I start asking Erik to tell us the answers to the questions I have because he has researched them, I want to say this. Whenever you are being targeted by agencies that run the country and the world, you know that you are sharing something that, as minions or little peons, we are not allowed to discuss. And as a result of that, I am not going to be scared into silence. To me, my mission on this planet is to help people to wake up to the truth so they can live their best life. And that I will continue to do. With that being said, Erik, welcome back.
Hello, Jennylyn. You look fabulous as always.
I'll pay you when I get rich. But you know, Erik, I really love my conversations with you. As I've evolved and found my place in the world and what I'm here to do, my circle of people that I enjoy speaking with has shrunk tremendously. And the circle that I find enriching to converse with, you would be one of the top people. And of course, our other dear friend Mel, and a few others who, like us, have taken it upon themselves to keep ourselves informed. And by doing our own research and not relying on mainstream media. That being said, One more thing I need to share about Erik. He has a show. It's called The Expandable Show. And on this show, at least 3 times a week, he comes on and he discusses political hot topics, which he has researched, which has led me to invite him on this show. And I'm hoping with his permission, and I'm putting a little bit of pressure here, I'd like him and I to do this at least once a week for those of you who follow me who may have confusion or unclear about what you're hearing in the news. And I'd encourage you to email me your questions, which I will send to Erik, and hopefully he can carve out some time to come back and answer them here with me. So, Erik, let's not waste any more time. The first question that I have on my list that I'd like you to clarify for me and my friends and those who watch me who are uncertain is Trump's master plan. I've been following a lot of news reports where people are starting to seem like they're having voters' remorse. And so you seem to understand it. So from your research, what do you think that is?
So it's very complex, and I have to say that as I have been and still am a Trump supporter, but I did not realize from his first term how well prepared he is for things. And I kind of underestimated that in his first term. And in the second term, as he kind of learned the mistakes that he made in his first term, you're seeing a totally different Donald Trump this time around. He has more composure. He's very, very calculated. And you hear a lot of the diehard Trump supporters say, well, he's playing 3D chess while everybody's playing checkers. And after going through and seeing what he's doing and looking at it from, several different isolated, kind of game plans that he has, and then taking a step back and looking at it from a big picture, I can kind of see where he's going with all this. And it's more complex than what the average American, I think, than what we're used to having to process. So when you look at his plan, so obviously China's been an adversary of ours for a long time. China is trying to work their way up the ladder to become the top world power. I don't think anybody can dispute that. That's pretty much fact. However, China has also over the years infiltrated certain markets of the United States, such as the farming industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and several others. So that's become a problem because they have direct impact to American consumers, where they could become unregulated by the government because they're setting up shop inside the states. So Trump's idea of this is, well, this isn't right. We shouldn't just let China, as one of our top adversaries, come in here and just have free reign to do whatever they want. It's just like going back and looking at the Biden administration. When Biden was in office, we had the Chinese spy balloons, we had the coronavirus, we had, and the coronavirus started off in Trump's regime, but we had Dr. Fauci who carried over. But then we had the economic boom of the Chinese industry in their own country, where they made more money than they ever had in the 4 years that Joe Biden was in office, because we basically opened up the markets to them and said, here, have your way. Trump came in and said, no, we can't do that. We're getting, for one, China's charging us tariffs. So how do we get rid of China? That's the question. How do we put China take a few steps back? So Trump came up with this great idea. Well, we'll do a mass tariff. And it did affect, every other country on the list. I'm sure everybody has seen the list by now of all the countries that Trump offered tariffs to. He's played hardball with only China. Everybody else, he's been very, very patient with and has worked out deals. Now, I think part of Trump's plan with China is to get them into a tariff war, because China's going to take themselves right out of the world market this way. And I think they know that. And here's how. China has a very, very competitive market over in Asia. India has a pretty darn good population to where they could handle the manufacturing that China has. They have the people and the skill sets and the workforce to do what China does. Now, Trump went over and put tariffs on Prime Minister Modi in India right off the bat, where he warned him. He said, hey, I'm going to put a reciprocal tariff on you. So I think what happened was Modi and Trump got together and said, hey, here's what we can do to get China out of the picture, because China's never going to come off their tariffs. We're not the only country that China puts tariffs on. They have tariffs on India. They have tariffs on Vietnam. They have tariffs on Europe. They have tariffs on everybody. So he worked out a deal with India and said, hey, this is what I think happened. He worked out a deal and he said, Prime Minister, if you zero out your tariffs, we'll zero out ours and we'll start importing from you instead of China. You guys start to create the same products that China creates, and we'll wash them out of the market while we help you build your market. And so I believe that's how he's using that. India has a very, very good workforce there. So this is going to be a very calculated thing, but it's going to choke China right out of the markets. The United States of America is the largest consumers in the world. So for China to get into this tariff war with us, it's going to hurt them more than it hurts us. And China will fold first because they won't have a choice, because Americans blow more money on anything than anybody else. We have the capital to do it. Like, our poverty level is way higher than everybody else's. So we have the extra capital to spend on all these cheap little Dollar General things that China makes. So there's that aspect of it, the China aspect of it. As far as inside our own country, a lot of Americans don't understand that our economy, due to the constant printing of money that there's no gold backing for, is a problem. And a lot of the top economic experts in the world said, hey, start to veer away from the American dollar, because I give it 2 to 3 years and that dollar is going to collapse. Now, that was true. Had we kept going the way we were going, the American dollar would have collapsed. Trump is drastically changing that. And he had to, because if we keep printing off money, our dollar would have been worth 40 cents on the dollar, and we would be the equivalent to close to a third world country as far as our dollar valuation. So with that being said, how did that happen? Why did the Biden administration, if we were so close to having an economic collapse of our dollar, why did the Biden administration continually throw out these $1 trillion plans? Because the plan doesn't come from the United States. It comes from Europe and the World Economic Forum. And when you go look into their system of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, they wanted to collapse the American dollar so they could create their own global currency. Oh. And so if you go back and you listen to Barack Obama talk and Joe Biden talk and Kamala Harris talk, you will hear them talk about the year 2030 all the time. When I first started hearing that year repetitively over and over and over again, which led me to write my book, The Swiss Effect, it made me go, what is so special about this year? Like, where's this year coming from? 2030. Why is everybody talking about this so much? So I went and I looked into it and I found it. The World Economic Forum it created this deadline, the year 2030, to have this globalization plan done. And it would have collapsed our economy. And so the Biden administration was on board with that, to continue to spend as much money as they could in 4 years to devalue the dollar, to get our economy to collapse so Europe could come in and bring their globalized currency in. And so that Trump had to stop that, because anything coming out of Europe, I understand there's a lot of leftists out there that think that Europe's our friend. I get that because we've had this relationship with Europe for a very, very long time. And we've all heard Donald Trump say, all Europe does is, milk us for our money, which is true. We don't really get anything in return out of the investment that we give. However, if you really look and at the behaviors, now we're going into like the forensic psychology part of it. If you go back into time and you continually look at the behaviors of Europe, and this is what kind of opened it up to me. You go look at the Roman Empire. All they wanted to do was conquer the world. You look at the British Empire. They wanted to conquer the world. You look at when the Spanish had their empire shortly, they wanted to conquer the world. You go look at the Ottomans. They wanted to conquer the world. The Nazis wanted to conquer the world. Every time Europe gets involved in something, they get too big for their britches and they get power hungry and they want to conquer the world. This is that version of that now, where the European Union is what brought them all together, so they don't have to do it independently per country now. Right. They can work together as one continent to globalize the world. And those value systems, when you go look into it and compare it to our constitutional value systems, they don't match. Their plan is going to be a problem for a lot of Americans. So Trump is trying to create separation between us and Europe, saying, hey, you guys are doing way too much. You're corrupting our system, and that's a problem. And Trump has won that battle. Just this past week, I talked about it on my show last week, where Klaus Schwab is now stepping down from the World Economic Forum. And also Prime Minister Keir Starmer from the United Kingdom, he has also come out and made a statement, and he said, yeah, we're going to scrap the globalization plan. Trump screwed it all up. Now we got to look out for us now. So he broke that up, and that's going to end up being beneficial. So what will happen as a result of that breakup? You're going to see the money flow that we were sending to Europe, that they were putting into the World Economic Forum, that they were creating these programs that were anti-American and sending them back over to us. Those are going to get broke up. So you're going to see a lot of the funding of a lot of these organizations and groups that have been causing a lot of problems in the United States. They're going to start dissipating. So that's kind of where we're at right now with Trump's grand plan. He's basically taking back control over the world. How can these countries come together and ask us for money and then say, okay, thanks for the money, but sit back over there and just keep your mouth shut? That's what they've been asking of us until they get into trouble with somebody and they say, hey, can you bring your big giant military over here and back us up and clean up this mess we made? This has been the repetitive cycle of the relationship between Europe and the United States for probably 50, 60 years. And Trump is stopping that. We have our own problems here. We need to start getting those fixed. As when you look at California, they have a $173 billion trade deficit with everybody in Asia. Well, how can they not fund their fire systems? How can they not fund to keep forest fires from happening? Why can't they put in new irrigation systems? If they had $173 billion, they could do that. So we're looking at, where's the money better used? Paying China for tariffs or upgrading our own states? And that's kind of where Trump's coming from on those things.
Thank you, Erik. I'm really, really grateful for your breakdown. And for those of you watching this, as he was speaking, I could hear some people saying, well, he's a Trumpster. What else do you think he's going to say? Well, based on my following Erik's reports so far, his reports are not biased. He is fair in his assessments, and I encourage you to hear him out. Erik, the second question that I have, that I've been hearing a lot of talk and unhappiness around, is Trump's support for Israel. There are lots of his voters I see saying the fact that he continues to support Israel means he is trying to keep the money in the hands of the elite and the power and the money in the hands of the elite because he's doing this. What is your take on his support for Israel, or why he's supporting Israel?
So that itself is its own complicated system. So when we look at Israel as a country, we look at, because they're a relatively new country. You know, if we go back in history, I believe they actually became a country in the 60s. So when we look at Israel, and I may be wrong on that, but they are still a relatively new country compared to other countries. This whole situation with Israel has several different angles you can look at it from. There's the biblical angle. There is the humanitarian angle, and there is the war angle. So when we look at this from the biblical angle, what is exactly the problem in Israel between them and the Muslims? It comes down to a 3,000 or 4,000 year old property dispute. So this is Abraham couldn't figure out which son he wanted to give Israel to, and they've argued about it. Ishmael and Isaac, you know, which kid gets it? Well, Isaac got it, and it's been fought over between Isaac's people and Ishmael's people for thousands of years, and this war is never going to end, because Islam believes that they have a take in it, and the Jews believe that they have a take in it. So this is going to be something that it could end up being a never-ending war, never-ending.
That's sad.
It is. And so when you look at it on the biblical sense of it, you know, any of you know the Bible, which I'm sure a lot of you do, you know, Abraham basically didn't know what to do, and so he prayed on it, and God said, "Give it to Isaac." So that's kind of the story that you know, that on the biblical side of things, why this is continually happening, and why it will probably never end. Now, when we look at it on the humanitarian side of things, that bases off of the biblical side of it. So you have both sides crying humanitarian issues. And this has been going on forever. So who can we really blame? You know, Israel does their fair share. The whatever group that's attacking Israel, the Palestinians, Hamas, whoever's over there, the Hezbollah, they all, there's a humanitarian issue on both sides. So when I look at it, I can't really choose a side, because they both have done horrendous things to each other. And then we go down and we look at the political side of it. So what makes Israel so important? Yes, it is very true that the Jewish pull on the economic world is vast. That's true. Why is that significant for Trump? It's going to go right back to the biblical side of things. Trump has the support of the Christians. He has the support of the evangelicals. So he's going to side with the pro-Jewish side of things, as opposed to a pro-Muslim side. And it's very complicated, and it's going to be an issue that I don't know that we're going to get a good answer out of. I know President Trump has said, well, we'll just occupy Gaza and we'll fix it up and turn it into a resort. I don't think that's going to be the answer. I think if we wanted to go in and fix it up and put some business there, so the people, the Palestinians, can go back there and have something to be proud of and thrive on, I'm okay with that. Because I do believe that they need to be given, you know, if you look at the pictures of Gaza, it's a giant pile of rocks. It's been blown up so bad, it's just a pile of rocks. So I think we should do what we do any other time we get into conflict with people, and go in and help build their society back up, and then walk away from it. So Israel's complicated. It's hard to sit there and really say who's at fault or who's right or who's wrong. I'm not gonna do that, because when I report on Israel, I just report what happened. I don't even pick a side because it's one of those things that it may be beyond my comprehension to understand.
Thanks, Erik. Another bone of contention, apparently, for a lot of people, not just Trump supporters, is it appears as though support for Ukraine is still on the table. And most people see this, again, as an opportunity to keep power and wealth in the hands of the elite. What's your take on that situation? Why is it even still an option? Why isn't there like no more support for Ukraine? Because Americans are not benefiting from this.
So there is a trust issue involved. This is where we're at in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It's all about trust right now. President Trump doesn't trust Zelensky, and he doesn't trust Putin. Zelensky doesn't trust Putin or Trump, and none of them trust each other. So we have this trust issue. Zelensky has now found out that Trump has a very, very eagle eye focus on his natural resources. There's a reason why, but Zelensky doesn't want to come off of them. Now, when we look at the war, the media has spun the Ukraine war so far out of comprehension because the media has painted since the Cold War Russia as the most horrible, government on the planet. They're just evil. They're everybody's bad guy. It's like dealing with Darth Vader all the time. And yes, Russia is not a perfect country. Russia they have their own issues in their country. There's a lot of corruption in Russia. There's all these things in Russia. Russia has all, but for the most part, Russia, outside of their little conflicts with their old territories that they want back, they really don't bother anybody. So why would Putin go into Ukraine? Why would he do that? And the media doesn't like to tell you this, but many other historical people have come out and said, hey, this war didn't start in 2022. This started in 2014 and it's most likely started way before that in the 90s. But let's go back to 2014. So there was a coup. We started the war in 2014. The United States of America started this war. And it's well documented now. You have to go kind of dig for it, but the information's out there that at the time in 2024, there was a pro-Russia president in Ukraine. Well, Ukraine has all these things. They have very rich farmland. They have all these natural resources under their ground. Everybody, all the power players of the world want a piece of Ukraine.
Right.
So this is what everybody was fighting for. So when Obama became president, he came up with this grand scheme like, hey, we'll kind of on the black sites, we'll just kind of throw our own little revolution in there and oust the pro-Russia president, and then we'll install our own. And so that happened. And Viktor Poroshenko became president after that. So Poroshenko, the people on the eastern part of the Ukraine, like in the Donbas region, that's Russian blood people. And when they built the border between Russia and the Ukraine, the Donbas region ended up in Ukraine. But that's Russian blood. They speak Russian. They have Russian culture. Everything in the Donbas region, all that whole eastern part of the Ukraine where all the major fighting's happening is Russian. They just are under the Ukraine flag. So they had an uprising when Poroshenko was in there. So Poroshenko started bombing them and sent special forces groups in there to kill them. And then when Poroshenko stopped being president and Zelensky went in, he picked up right off where Poroshenko started, because they didn't want this Russia influence in Ukraine, because Russia wouldn't work with the United States at the time. So they wanted an American installed president, a Ukraine pro-America installed president So that way they can manipulate the natural resources in Europe, because the Ukraine is gonna basically fund that whole part of the world with wheat, huge wheat export. They make most of their money off farming. And then on top of that, there's a lot of uranium underneath that ground. What do you make with uranium? You make nuclear warheads. So there's a lot of valuable things there. They also have, they have their own crude oil. They have coal. They have iron. There's a lot of things there that we can use. And just geographically, when you look where Ukraine's positioned, there and the seas that are around them, they have direct access to a lot of areas. So strategically, that's a very good port of entry for trade and for them to export to where they want to export. So all these situations that we're talking about are very complicated. There's more to the story. So when we look at the media and how they feed us, and you can do this from MSNBC, you can do this from CNN, you can do it from Fox, and you can do it from Newsmax. What they do is they give you their 30-second snippet of the story. Now, I don't know about you, I can't tell a full story in 30 seconds. So it just depends on what network you watch as
That's
opposed
why we're doing this.
Right. It just depends on what snippet you get. Fox is going to take the same story and they're going to make their snippet meet their narrative, where CNN does the same thing. We're going to make the snippet meet our narrative. We want the viewers to believe what we want them to believe. And that's where all the media, major media has lost its way. We don't have real journalism on TV anymore. They just read stories and they manipulate our thought process on it. It's not journalism. It's not a study or facts, or they just throw things out there that meet a narrative. So, and it's the same thing with the Ukraine war. Zelensky, we found out later that we could use Ukraine as a funneling system. And on top of that, the biolabs that were found there, the trafficking rings that have been found there. There's a lot of bad things that go on in Ukraine that I don't understand why everybody wants to fly there. This is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. That's why nobody wants to admit them into anything. Nobody wants to align themselves professionally with Ukraine. And that's why Russia has said, hey, don't align with them. These guys the leadership here is bad. And I'm not saying they didn't have these problems when the pro-Russia president was in there, because they did. However, there was accountability. Russia would go in and punish people, where now it's a free-for-all. There's no punishment. There's no circumstances. So that's basically how it breaks down with the Ukraine. It's a war that started by the United States of America. And now Trump's coming in trying to figure out how to clean this up and maybe recover some of our damages that the Biden administration caused by just allowing this to continually go on.
Makes you wonder why. Anyway, I started my show in 2011, and I always said I would never use my show as a political platform. What am I doing now? Unfortunately, the politics are suffocating me, and I am a part of it. I live it. And so now I feel forced to do something. Also, all of you watching need to know there have been several attempts on my life. So what the heck do I care now? I'm just going to spread the truth as I find it, because I am tired of being treated like a dummy in a classroom that's being forced to believe that which has not served me throughout my lifetime, that I also know is not serving the majority of you who are fighting and are asleep. We are diametrically opposed and divided, and this is not going to help any of us. And so I am really committed to helping people to see the truth so you can make more informed decisions. And Erik, this is going to lead to my next question. Or not question, but topic that I feel needs clarification. And it's the one that the Republicans are only looking out for the wealthy. Because there are a large percentage of Americans who believe that Mr. Trump or President Trump, and by the way, I want to say here, I did not vote. I am not on a political side. I'm on the side of humanity and integrity. And I do believe that integrity is not dead yet. I know for me it will never die. And so if I have to risk my life to see justice done for those who are being opposed, I will keep doing it. So Erik, yeah, there are a lot of people who are saying that President Trump is only looking out for the wealthy and the elites.
So I can prove that wrong. And this is a huge misconception. If you go look at, for one, statistical data, there are almost 3 times the amount of billionaires that donate to the Democrat Party as opposed to the Republican Party. The wealthy are on the side of the left. It's a fact. You could go research it and look it up all day long. The other part that I can prove is, do you think the wealthy wanted their stocks to all drop by 1,600 points in one day? No, they didn't want that. Do you think they wanted it to rapidly jump up 1,000 points the next day after everybody just dumped their stocks? No, they didn't want that. Billionaires do not like drastic change. They like smooth and steady. They like predictability. So that was a problem for them. And when you look at the top 3 asset management companies in the world, which are the companies who actually run the open markets in the United States, which is State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock. Each one of them lost $1 trillion by what Donald Trump did. They've gained some of it back, but they're still in a loss as to where they were 2 weeks ago. The billionaires do not like Donald Trump. I promise you that. That's why now you have JP Chase and Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon. He'll get on TV 2 weeks ago and tell you how great Donald Trump was. And now yesterday he's like, he's tearing my company apart. So he's not what Donald Trump is doing is not benefiting the billionaires. I promise you that. They do not like him. Mark Cuban has nothing good things to say about Donald Trump. Donald Trump has lost money. Elon Musk has lost almost $100 billion since he's jumped on with Doge. So Donald Trump is bad for billionaires. If you're a billionaire, you're going to lose money under Donald Trump. And that's a fact. You can go research all the data. It's out there to look at. And this is just a talking point that the politicians on the left like to use. They use a lot of talking points like, oh, he's helping the rich. He's rich, so he must like the rich. That's how they add their math together. Well, Donald Trump's a billionaire, so he probably hangs out with billionaires, probably likes them all, and they're all friends. No, I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't like Donald Trump. I mean, he doesn't exactly hold back when he talks to people. I'm sure he offends a lot of people. So I'm seeing it in the data where this whole plan that he's doing is going to backfire on the billionaires. And which is why I don't understand why the left keeps saying he's for the billionaires when he just cost the asset management companies over $1 trillion. Like, that's a lot of money to lose in one day.
You know, one of the things that makes me sad, Erik, is I watch my friends and most of humanity, apart from those who choose to wake up like us, who have had an open mind, who have looked outside the box because things are not adding up in the box. That's what I did. I am not someone who jumps on a bandwagon. It has to connect for me to subscribe to it. And I am just so bewildered and disturbed by how many people I know and hold in high esteem will just jump on a bandwagon because people they like are on it, beating a drum to the music that's not adding up and making any sense. And it's really difficult for me because once I find the truth, I want my friends to see. How come you're not seeing? This is where my passion comes from. And so before I get to the next topic, the next topic that I'd like us to clarify or hear your views on is, I want to say this. How many times do we see a helicopter crash with a CEO and it's an accident? How many times we see someone that was doing something outside of the box to wake people up and to effect change, they wind up dead, they commit suicide, they overdose. And I watch people just accept it like they believe it. And I'm like, I don't belong on this planet, because how is it that they are not seeing it so blatant? Anyway, that's this little introduction is coming from what I want to table next. And
So before you go, Jennylyn, I want to just dab on that just a second.
okay.
There's a thing, and many of you have heard this term about blind faith. Blind faith is a term that we use for religion, for our following of God and our obedience to God. You should not have blind faith for your media. That is going to get you nowhere. Stop putting all your faith into what the media tells you. That is the most, you think our government's corrupt? The most corrupt entity in this world is our media.
Exactly. Absolutely. Mainstream.
Jennylyn, you get it because you're a good journalist.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I do the work, Erik, like you, because I don't want to live a lie anymore. And in other words, Erik, as you know, as a forensic psychologist with a degree to back it up, it's also known as cognitive dissonance. And I say it so often. And I still see even that weaving threads over people's heads. They don't know what I'm saying. And they don't try to check it out. I don't understand. I don't understand what I'm missing. But I'm clearly missing something. But the reason I had such an elaborate intro to this is it happens so often when someone is coming on the political scene and wanting to change something that's really important to the powers that be, because they are making big money on whatever else from it being the way it is. This person ends up with this. And I am referring to RFK, who is trying to bring about change in the medical arena. And I have been following him long before he became a political candidate. And I really believe no man is perfect, and I don't trust any man 100%. But I do believe he is trying to bring about change so we can live in a more healthy America. And this is why he is part of this conversation, to ask you about the sexual harassment charges that are being brought against him. And it's clearly to try to cancel him out. Remember all the men that we know of who are trying to do something good for mankind. It's like those who trigger this, it's like this is an old trick. Can you try a new one? Which man in some form or the other hasn't had some woman feel like he sexually harassed her? And I know there are cases of it. I'm not minimizing it. I'm a woman. I've had inappropriateness many times myself. But it's funny how suddenly when someone is trying to do something different, these stories start surfacing. I'm so tired of it. What's your take on it?
So first I want to, and like you said, Jennylyn, I don't want to minimize this because we don't know for sure, because we've been duped so many times and we've seen this same accusation come up at just the right time.
Exactly.
Over and over and over again. So I don't want to minimize this woman. But at the same time, when I look at it from a legal aspect, what we have is
timing.
The timing is one. For two, I'm going to give you an example because Trump went through the E. Jean Carroll thing. And I know that a lot of the left wants to paint Trump as a rapist for that, because some judge in civil court said, yep, he did it. And that's fine. That's fine and everything. Actually, he's not supposed to say stuff like that. The judge isn't. He's actually in an ethics violation by saying that. But when we look at that, if that was such a, if Trump did those things to E. Jean Carroll, and it was that serious, a lot of people don't understand how the law works. When it comes to crimes, you have to have certain elements of a crime to get a charge. If you're missing those elements of crime, then it weakens the case. The prosecutors generally won't prosecute them. Now,
Erik, can you hold that thought? Don't lose that thought.
Yes.
I think this is a good time to insert. For those of you who do not know, Erik has served in the criminal world for quite a bit of his life. And Erik, maybe you want to tell them how long, so they know for sure you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I've been in several different branches of law enforcement, even on a contractual federal basis, for probably a little over 10 years. And I've seen it all, at the local level all the way up to, contract work for certain agencies that I can't still talk about.
You may continue.
But so when it comes to that, there's two crimes in just about every state statute that you don't need elements of the crime to get an indictment. One is domestic violence. It basically is, if you make a statement, you can get an indictment. The second one are sex crimes, rape, things like that. So they did that because back in the day, they created the rape shield law in the 60s because prostitutes were getting sexually assaulted and nobody was doing anything about it because, well, hey, you're in that business. So, back in the 60s, our mentalities were different, but they created the rape shield law to protect the prostitutes. So if they did get assaulted, they were able to, even though there wasn't a lot of evidence and they're promiscuous in their jobs, that they were still able to get some sort of protection. Well, now they've applied that to everything in the sexual assault world. So if Trump really did, and there's no statute of limitations as either. So if Trump really did that to E. Jean Carroll, it would take E. Jean Carroll to write a statement, turn it into a prosecutor, and Trump would have been criminally charged. That's how easy it is. It just takes a statement. Same thing with domestic violence. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think, well, civil court is just as bad as no, it's not. Civil court, anybody can sue anybody. I can sue Jennylyn tomorrow for 25 cents for anything I've heard because I don't like the color of her microphone. So civil court really carries no weight. It's just people arguing over money. Criminal court now, if E. Jean Carroll was serious and really wanted to get back at Trump, she would have taken him through the ringer and Trump would have went to prison for assault in criminal court. It would have been that easy. And she didn't proceed it. Why? Because she knew she didn't want to destroy the man's life. She wanted to destroy his presidency. And that's what makes the difference. And this is the same thing with Kennedy. If Kennedy really did those things, we would be seeing him get indicted in court and he would be facing some major felonies. But instead, we're seeing it just get leaked to the media. It's probably going to end up in civil court, just enough to pressure Bobby Kennedy to think about resigning his position. Even though the guy's done nothing but promote health. I don't understand it. I was so excited when I read his health plan. I'm like, finally, we can get all these chemicals out of our food. We can get kids exercising again. There's all these benefits that he brings to the table. Now, I did not like Bobby Kennedy as a presidential candidate because some of his views were a little too out there for me, but he's the perfect guy for health and fitness. He's the perfect guy for where he's at in the cabinet. Because when you look at the guy, he takes very good care of his body. He eats out of his own garden. The guy knows what he's doing. It's like telling your personal trainer you don't know what you're talking about when the guy's 6'4", 280 pounds, and he's ripped. Like you can't do that with Bobby Kennedy. The guy knows nutrition, he knows fitness. We need to leave him alone and let him do it. They're scared because the pharmaceutical companies are going to lose billions and billions of dollars because Bobby Kennedy's.
Exactly. And if you're watching us, guys, look at this. How many politicians that are coming on the scene with something that will benefit us in some way has raped somebody. It's like they go scouring through the person's life, and sometimes they even fabricate. Russell Brand is not a favorite of mine, but he was starting to tread in some waters that was stepping on the wrong toes, and then the same thing happened. And that's what opened my eyes, because I read many reports by women that said they were paid and approached to go to write letters and say he had done things to them that they may have consented to. People, when are you guys going to wake up? It is the same game, different scenario.
Correct.
And why do we only hear about this when these people have stepped onto the world stage to do something for humanity?
Correct.
Why didn't we hear about his sexual escapades? Why didn't his accusers come forth when he wasn't doing anything for any of us? Wasn't he still guilty then? If he's guilty now? Come on, people. I can't be the only one. Erik and I can't be the only two people that are seeing through this smoke screen. I'm tired of it. And this is what I have to say before I bring up the last topic, Erik, is I am tired of being treated like a stupid kindergartner with a teacher in front of me with a stick telling me, this is what you need to believe. Listen to me, all of you who are behind all of this. I don't believe crap that you are telling me. I believe what I have researched and what the dots that I have connected. And you can try as many times as you want to kill me. I will not shut up until it's time for my God who put me here to take me home. Because what you are doing is bullying humans, and that's why you're trying to control our freedom of speech, which is our prerogative. And nobody has sent us letters and memos telling us that we no longer have those rights because they have been revoked by those who matter. Okay, Erik.
Tell him, Jennylyn.
No, I'm just tired of it. Seriously.
I'm the same way. It's like beating a dead horse sometimes.
I don't. I think people need to stop jumping on stupid bandwagons and do their homework.
Oh, by the way,
it will benefit them and their families to know the truth.
If any of you want to go look into it, like we were talking about the asset management companies that hate Donald Trump, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Moderna, all the major pharmaceutical companies are held by State Street, BlackRock, Vanguard. So there you go.
And Erik, I had one other topic, but you kind of covered it in the introduction. It was the tariffs, and we've already been going for like an hour. But I really see the need to do this weekly because I really feel that, look, my name is already on a red list, and I know for certain that orders have already been given to kill me and you and Mel. We know this. So you know what? I'm just going to keep doing what God is calling me to do.
That's all you can do. God chooses. That's what I always say. God chooses.
He clearly gave me this mission because there's a fire in me that's burning that it's making me crazy that people aren't seeing what is really going on. And I don't mean to offend anyone, but it's my humble observation that there are a lot of Americans who are only concerned about their side winning, even though the side they're fighting for is not doing crap for them.
So let me give viewers, maybe I can give them a kind of a analytical, metaphorical scenario.
Yeah, and we can wrap with that.
So if any of you have watched the movie Stargate, the movie Stargate is basically about the Anunnaki. So that if you read any of Zechariah Stitchen's books about the Anunnaki, which are great. They're great reads. Go read all 20 of them or however many there are. They had the same problem. The people that were enslaved by the Anunnaki. They went every day. They were treated badly by their rulers. They were abused. They were forced into harsh labor, and they were given very little. And one day, one of them woke up and said, "Why are we doing this?" And then somebody else woke up and they said, "Yeah, why are we doing this?" And then pretty soon, as the masses woke up, they had an uprising and forced the Anunnaki out. And that's what freed humanity. We were originally delved into slavery according to Sumerian and ancient Sumerian text. So we have to understand that all of our existence, we have had to fight the same battle. You have people that are watching the world through a veil. And then you have some that kind of pull it up and go, "Hey, what's on the other side of this? Oh, things are not as I thought they were." So that is how we need to all look at that. It's the same thing on the right. It's the same thing on the left. We have this insider trading issue going on right now that could potentially be there. Maybe it is, maybe there isn't. But the left's pointing the finger at the right going, insider trading, insider trading. But wait a minute. Where you guys all been insider trading the last 4 years? And now you want to point the finger over here? What I think needs to happen is a full congressional audit. Let's find out exactly everybody that's doing it. If we do that, guess what? We got to reelect everybody in Congress because they're all guilty of it. So we have this veil. Everyone needs to lift the veil. And when we vote for people, we need to really, really find those individuals that are as close to honest as possible. Politics is a dirty game, and it's a money scheme, and we got to find better candidates. These people are not getting it done. Maybe they were good when they went in, but over time, that's why I think term limits are important. We need to get that done, because if we leave these people in as career politicians, they're going to become career criminals. So there you go.
Thank you, Erik. I love that. It's brilliant. And therefore, that being said, we need to close the diametric division. We need to get rid of the polarization. We need to come together. We need to open our eyes. We need to look outside the box. And those of us that they hate, that they say are crazy, that we're spreading conspiracies, we're telling the truth. That's why. I noticed lately that people are trying to cancel Candace Owens. And that's because she's like us. You know, she doesn't care about your judgments. She's trying to wake you up to the truth. That's all we're trying to do. We're not getting paid. Our lives are at risk. So maybe we're just...
Why are we doing this, Jennylyn? We're broke and everyone wants to kill us.
Exactly, because what we are telling you is worth more than money. Your freedom and your emancipation from control and mind games. So let's wake up, people, and we'll see you next week when Erik has time with the updates that are going to happen next week, because who knows anymore? It's happening so fast. I couldn't get all of it asked. So
we got time. We got plenty of time.
Yeah, but after 1 hour, people say, "Oh, the video is too long," so I try to keep it within that window. Erik, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Did you miss anything? Do you think that's important we leave with these people before I go, whoever's watching us? And thank you for watching us.
Just if you do have things that you're confused about, please do reach out to Jennylyn, and I promise you I will do the best research that I can to bring some facts to the table to kind of hopefully help you clarify things. That's what I like to do, is try to make sense of the confusion, and maybe we'll come to a conclusion.
And Erik is a Trumpster, but I am not on any side. I'm just on your side. I'm on the side of what is right, what is fair, and so we can all live and let live. And thank you so much. Forgive the passion, I can't help it. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.